Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy, I Read Reddit, back at it again with some more entitled parent stories. Now if you think you can do whatever you want at your husband's funeral, this is the perfect one for you. So sit back, relax and enjoy the show. I'm sure you're gonna love it. Our first story was posted by user SapphireFoxy, titled, Entitled Cousin Thinks She Can Do Whatever for Her Husband's Funeral. To be clear, the entitled cousin is more my entitled cousin once removed. And absolutely no one in the family likes her or her husband. Even her own children have moved hours away just to get away from them. When I was little, she wasn't so bad, but over the years, she seems to have become just a monster with the stunt she's currently trying to pull, putting her over the edge, and even having parts of our own family who normally defend her, wanting nothing to do with her. Her entitlement really started when my grandparents, after my great-grandmother died, sold her house and bought themselves a bungalow while giving the entitled children the furniture from their old council house as she needed it, or entitled cousin. It seemed after that happened, the entitled cousin seemed to think she was owed every time someone got something new. When my mother got a new oven, the entitled cousin complained that my mum hadn't gotten her a new one too, before backpedaling and saying that she should have just given her the old one. This happened again when my grandmother got a new washing machine, which honestly got us to laugh about the entitled cousin wanting an old washer filled with stinking rotten water. When family holidays happened, she demanded other people pay for her. She and her side of the family were quickly uninvited from said family holidays, and on said holidays, she would only let her kids have £1 to use in the arcades for an entire day, and scream at them when they asked for more or for drinks. But what really pushed people over the edge is how entitled she's acting over her husband's death. Everyone is doing their best to pitch in and help her while she whines about how much things are costing her. She's not paying a penny at this point, and that people should be helping her more. Everyone but her is organizing the funeral and wake, and she is told, not asked, told, my mother that her husband is going in my grandmother's family grave. The moment my mother told my grandmother, she was livid. The husband isn't related to anyone on grandmother's side of the family. The entitled cousin isn't related to anyone on the grandmother's side of the family. There is a family grave for her husband's side, but she doesn't want him to go into that one because it'll cost more than putting him in the grandmother's grave. And apparently the husband's family hates him and the entitled cousin enough that they don't want him in their grave. This is still an ongoing story. The funeral isn't until Thursday, and details are still swimming about, so I'll definitely update this one, and maybe even a video, as my mother has been grumbling about punching the entitled cousin's lights out at the wake if she tries anything. Entitled Cousin and the Funeral. Update. For those too lazy, entitled second cousin didn't used to be entitled. Then she started demanding when people buy new things that she should be given the old or they should buy her new stuff too. Tried to force the rest of the family to pay for her to go on holiday and has been making a racket about organizing and paying for her husband's funeral when she has neither paid for it nor has a minimal engagement in organizing it. We have a cast this time. There's me, the socially awkward fox that doesn't want to be here, Nan, the awesome grandmother who I care for. She's disabled, having to use a wheelchair as she can only stand and walk short distances, is half blind and diabetic. Whew! Uncle, he drove us there, is pretty awesome himself and is also disabled, walks with a limp and can't handle too much stress due to a weak heart. Mum, my mother, our relationship is complicated and strained, but we can tolerate being around each other for short periods of time, and as you guessed it, she's disabled and prone to seizures. Entitled cousin is of course our entitled cousin for the night. Everything went alright at the funeral for the most part. Worst complaint is no one apparently told the funeral house that there was going to be a wheelchair, so I had to awkwardly struggle to get Nan into the chapel, and we got shoved into a corner where we could barely see anything. And the entitled cousin so loudly obviously fake crying throughout. Seriously, I've heard better acting in my baby sister's plays, and she made sure to be extra loud during a poem reading by the husband's first child. who wasn't hers, and she'd kicked up a big fuss about her doing a reading at the funeral, but had relented. We then moved to a tiny social club for the wake. It was cramped and hard to get into, as the disabled ramp had a stupidly high gradient, but I managed to wheel Nan inside, and we got shooed into a small cubbyhole in the corner, where the four of us sat around an awkwardly small table. Then things got weird. One by one, as people came in, they stopped by our table and dropped their kids off, ranging from babies to about 10 years old. Understandably confused, we asked one of the parents just what they were doing, and they said, "Entitled cousin said you were the ones looking after the kids, so the rest of us can drink." Yup. Entitled cousin had looked at the four of us, three of us being disabled, and decided that everyone else should dump their kids on us to be looked after. It wouldn't have really even bothered us if it was just watching 2 or 3 kids, but it was at least 15 kids with 3 babies. Uncle, being the awesome guy that he is, got up to confront the entitled cousin. "Hey, EC, what is it? I'm busy." She has a Jack and Coke in hand. "We noticed everyone's leaving their kids with us." "Yes, you're the babysitters." "Entitled cousin, you can't just do that. 1, you didn't ask. 2, we physically can't. Nan and I can't run around after the kids. Foxy has to be by Nan to make sure she's alright, and doesn't know how to look after kids, which leaves Mum to look after the kids on her own, which just isn't possible." "Well, what else are we supposed to do?" "Tell everyone to look after their own kids. If they couldn't get a babysitter, it's their own fault. You can't expect to just dump this on people who can't do the job and not have issues." The entitled cousin huffed and blustered, but enough people heard the uncle shaming her to start sheepishly taking their kids back. The buffet opened not long after and was cleaned out within 2 minutes, due to there being so many people and too little food. People understandably started complaining. The 4 of us agreed to just not say anything and get something to eat when we get home. The entitled cousin started going around and demanding money from people. We didn't know what for till she got to our table. "Give me your money." "For what?" "Food, of course. We're going to get delivery." "It's alright, dear, we decided we'd get something when we get home. Less worry for you." "No, everyone's chipping in for food." "Well, we're not going to have any." "You still need to pay." "For food we're not going to eat?" "Well, you didn't help for the funeral." "We did. Nan here's the one who paid for the rent the social club. Mum and I helped pay for the funeral." "Then Foxy has to pay." "I make less than the minimum wage, and I already put money in that donation box at the funeral going towards the hospital." The entitled cousin let out an annoyed scoff and finally stomped off. We shared a look and quietly agreed to finish our drinks and hightail it out of there, as other people had already started getting wise to the entitled cousin and were sneaking off. As we were finishing, the uncle went to the bathroom and Mum got a phone call from my brother, so went inside to take it. Seeing that the 2 adults were gone, entitled cousin sprang again, coming up behind Nan, which Nan hates when she's in a wheelchair. She trusts very few people to push her. "Oh, Nan, did you bring the papers?" Papers?" "The grave papers for husband." For those who hadn't read my first story, the entitled cousin announced she was going to put her husband in my Nan's family grave, despite both him and her not being related to Nan, and Nan having made it clear that the only new body that was going into the grave was her own. "He's not going into Nan's family grave?" "He's family." "He's your family, and he's the husband's family. He can go into their family grave." "But that'll be so expensive." "I'm sorry, dear entitled cousin, but the only ashes going into my family's grave are mine." "You are so selfish right now." "It's my choice. It's my family's grave. I'm sorry, entitled cousin." "If you were really sorry, you'd pay for my husband to go into his family grave." My uncle walks up and says, "I'm sorry, did Nan marry the husband when I wasn't looking? Paying for that is yours and his family's responsibility. We have already helped as much as we can, money-wise." "You just don't care about my husband." "Yup. Come on, Foxy and Nan. Mum's already in the car." We quickly left, as the entitled cousin stared, baffled that he'd actually said that to her face. I'm disappointed Mum didn't punch the entitled cousin like she threatened to. But we've yet to see what the fallout of this is going to be. Before anyone gets angry at the uncle for saying he doesn't care about the husband was a nasty piece of work himself, constantly screaming at and belittling his kids and antagonizing everyone else in the family, to the point where his oldest son moved from the UK to Canada just to get away from him. Our next story was posted by user eggrollpotato, titled, "My sister's funeral was ruined by some bench and her kids." Well crap, I'm guessing you guys need background. My sister, we'll call her E, she just got killed by a drunk driver about a month ago, and this really hurt not only because she's my sister, but we were best friends. She always had my back and I had hers. She was 20, so she was just getting into the fun part of life. About to graduate college, everything was fudging great. So the funeral was hard at the start. I was a pallbearer, which for those who don't know, they help carry the casket. When the priest opened it up at first and let us look, that's when I started crying, and I never stopped. Almost halfway through, I hear the doors slam open in the back. There's this woman and 3 kids that walk in. The woman is talking, in reality is close to screaming, into her phone. Of course, after 2 minutes, the kids are running around and being loud. This is getting on everyone's nerves, so my mum asks the priest to get them out. The priest is a timid guy, of course. He couldn't get himself to do it, so he pages someone from the looks of it. So, while we wait for this family to get out, we have to stop. I was really ticked at this dang mum, and I was about to murder her when my mum gets up and storms over to the bitch. She grabs her phone and slams it on the ground. The entitled bitch starts freaking out, like her kid had just died. She's screaming at my mum, who is just standing there in rage. When that bitch is done screaming, my mum starts screaming about how, "You clearly are important enough to ruin my daughter's funeral, then you can get the frick out and get yourself a new dang phone." I was a mixture of shocked and impressed. Shocked because I've never seen my mum that mad, and not even in the hospital. Impressed because she did nothing more physical than point a finger. I would have snapped her neck. That bitch, of course, defended herself, saying that how could she know it's a funeral? Look around, bitch. Why is there a casket, tears, a priest? The fudging nerve on some people to do crap like that. She started mocking my mum, getting her things, and on the way out called us horrible people for ruining her afternoon. This enraged me. I ran after her and I screamed out to the entitled idiot. I started screaming the following: "You fudging tramp!" I don't know why tramp, I was just mad. "Your afternoon is ruined? Oh no, what will we do? What would we do without the poor idiot having a nice afternoon?" She cuts me off and says, "Actually, you people ruined my afternoon." This killed me, and I got the most mad I'd ever been. "You came here with your dang kids and ruined my fudging sister's funeral. Keep in fudging mind it's not my aunt, it's my fudging sister, and you fudging ruined her funeral, so your day is ruined." And I mock cry. "Well, go have your dang pity party somewhere else, jerk." At this point I'm out of breath and I'm death staring her. "Well, maybe if you weren't here in my space." I couldn't take her anymore, so I punched her in the gut. It wasn't too hard, not enough to really hurt her, but enough for her to feel it. She of course screams bloody murder, Bloody Mary. I turn around and walk inside as she screams the usual, "I've been assaulted! Call 911! Bullcrap. After that, I never saw her again. She probably didn't call the cops because she knew that she was in the wrong. In the end, we finally got my sister buried and we lived on. I definitely miss her, and I'm so proud of myself for standing up in her name. Every once in a while, I stop in her room and I have a one-way conversation with her, and it's comforting. This all was ridiculous, I know, but I just can't believe someone would have the guts to do that. Really slaughters my faith in humanity. Anyways, thank you guys for reading this. Hope you realized what absolute crapbags these people are. Quick edit. Thank you guys for the support. It really means a lot to know that people still care. I really wish that I could respond to each comment, but they all blew up at once. But I know that I'm constantly reading them and loving y'all. Aw, that's so sweet. Our next story is posted by user Vrpndt, titled, Entitled Kid Breaks My Stuff, and Entitled Mother just said, well, kids will be kids. Okay, so I'm on mobile, and English is my first language, but I suck at it. Backstory. So, every year in school, we're allowed to bring in some tips out things from home to play with. Don't know what that means. One year, I bring in my guitar and my 3DS. Keep in mind, both were brand new, so I really take care of them. Everyone in my class was fine, besides the entitled kid. Our cast are me, Meteor Explosion, M, Entitled Mum, Ek, Entitled Kid. Story time. So people are going up to each other asking if they could use the other person's stuff. The usual. So Entitled Kid comes up to me and this conversation happens. Cool! Is that a 3DS? It was new at the time. Remember that. Sorry, I'm gonna use it now, but you can play with my guitar if you want. Please? I'm being generous, so I say, look, I'll give it to you later to play with. Sound good? Okay then. Then he proceeds to walk off. I think nothing of it, and make sure to remember to give my 3DS to him later. About 10 minutes pass until the entitled kid asks the same question again, to which I agree. So he asks what games I got, and I tell him. Then he asks to play Ocarina of Time 3D. Great game, really recommend it. And here's the conversation. Oh, can I play this one? And he points to it. Sure, just use the bottom, the empty save file. Yay, thanks! Me, proud that I've made someone happy, say, you're welcome. So about 20 minutes pass, and that lesson will end soon. So I ask the entitled kid for my 3DS back, and this following conversation happens. Hey, entitled kid, can I have my 3DS back now? The lesson's gonna end soon. No. What? I want to keep it. You can't. I paid for it. It's mine. I want it! So I tell the teacher, and typical entitled kid says it's his. I prove it's mine, thanks to the me's, which are just the avatars, and the save files. Now, the entitled kid has a huge tantrum, literally kicking and screaming. Then he snatches my 3DS from me and throws it on the floor. Thankfully, he can't throw hard, so it doesn't get too badly damaged. Then he takes a pair of scissors and cuts one of the strings in the guitar, then storms off. Now I'm ticked and tell my dad, who meets up with the entitled mother to arrange payment for the things that the entitled kid damaged. Then the conversation went like this. Well, how much do I need to pay you? Well, about £100 for the guitar and about £50 for a case for the 3DS to hide the damages to the console. You're lucky that the console still works. That's about $200 or pounds. No way, that's way too expensive. He's just a kid. Hey, you're gonna pay. At least you don't have to buy a new console and guitar, or you'd be paying double. No, he's just a kid, and kids will be kids. So no, I'm not gonna pay you all that money. So they argued for longer, and soon enough, the entitled mother handed over the money after my dad threatened to take legal action. Sorry for no big court case or Olive being involved, but I'm glad that it ended that way. Thanks for reading. I'm sure they meant Olive like police. That's usually what they put there. Alright. And our last story today was posted by user Blep, titled Anti-Vax Entitled Mother at the Urgent Care. Howdy, it's your boy. Hey, remember in my last post that I said I didn't want to deal with this again? Obviously, you know that didn't happen. Warnings about writing on a phone. I love speaking English in America. Whoops. So our cast are AEM, Anti-Vax Entitled Mum, Uke 1 plus 2, Entitled Unvaccinated Kids, me, Blep, Padre, my sane father, and N, nurse. Story time, kids. So, school just let out a few days ago where I'm at. Padre has been setting me up to take me out of public school and into homeschooling. While looking through all of my papers, looking for the ones he needs, he notices that I haven't had one of my shots yet. Meningococcal meningitis, I believe it was. Or meninges. So he set me up at a doctor's appointment to get it, just so all of my vaccines are up to date. So today he took me to the local UC, since it was easier than the hospital, to get me fixed up. When we walked into the waiting area, there wasn't anyone there except for this lady and her 2 kids. Those 3 would be our entitled anti-vax mother and entitled unvaccinated kids. Looking around, 32 or 35, and our 2 crotch goblins looked between the ages of 6 to 7, female, and 10 to 12, also female. Entitled mother was on her phone playing Toon Blasters, not paying attention to her 2 daughters, yelling loudly and yanking each other's hair. I was a bit annoyed, but I ignored them. I sat in the chair farthest from the group as Padre went up to the window to fill out my papers. I take out my phone and start messing around as I wait. About 5 minutes pass with no trouble until I hear giggling in the chair next to me. Now, after my last entitled mother experience, and even before that, I never really liked kids. They were kind of like demons with flesh in my opinion. So when I glance over at Kid 1, I kind of had a, oh brother, kind of look. Kid 1 goes, "Wow, you have a fancy phone." I'm already a little bit agitated at this, and I go, yeah, thanks. Now, studying this kid up close, it takes everything I have to not actually vomit. She looks like death. Seriously, runny nose, pale skin, dark circles, sneezing, and coughing uncontrollably. She also has a ring of food and drink stains around her mouth and hands, as well as all over her t-shirt. Like, really, she ought to be old enough to know how to clean herself up. Kid 2, then suddenly on my other side, looking like Kid 1, except for all the stains. She's also looking at my phone. They both stare at me, looking through my Twitter feed for quite some time until I get the infamous question. "So do you have any games on your phone?" "No, I don't actually." "Are you sure?" I'm annoyed and I go, "Yes, I'm pretty sure." Another moment of silence passes. "Well, can we play on your phone anyway? We're bored." I don't think so." "Aw, why? We're bored." "Why don't you go play with the other toys over there?" I point to the kids' play area. "Mommy said we're not allowed to touch anything over there because we're sick." For a moment I say nothing. If these kids weren't allowed to touch the toys because they were sick, then why in Sam's hell did they think it was okay to put their sticky little paws all over my phone? I quickly stand and back away from them, over to where Padre was sitting. The 2 didn't follow, but instead ran back to their mother. For a few peaceful minutes there was quiet. Then I have this whale of a woman, anti-vax entitled mother, looming over me. She didn't say anything for a moment, just stared at me. I kind of ignore her until she starts speaking. "Excuse me, young lady." Yeah? My kids say that you won't let them play on your phone. Why won't you?" I glance over at them and back to her. Isn't it a bit obvious? They're sick." "So what?" I'm visibly confused at this. I don't want to get sick, so I'm not going to let them touch my things." "Well, you should. It's healthy for you. It builds up your body's natural defense system." "Oh, wonderful. An anti-vax mother." I kind of chuckle a little at the irony of me being here to get vaccinated, and now I'm talking with an anti-vax parent. Padre catches whiff of our conversation and chimes in. "Well, those natural defenses don't seem to be working, miss. Maybe consider getting your walking, talking pandemics away from my daughter and I." She gasps, all offended. That's when N, the nurse, finally opens the door and calls my name. Padre gets up and so do I. We go and do all the checkup stuff. Height, weight, you get the gist. Then she begins leading us to the room before suddenly the anti-vax mum steps in front of her. "Oh, excuse me, miss, No! I will not let this horrible parent poison their child again. Excuse me? This vile man is giving his child sickness and trying to infect her with autism. I will not stand for it. She will not be vaccinated. Padre and I are baffled. How had this lady known that I was getting vaccinated? The nurse asked this question for us. The lady at the front desk told me. Vaccines are awful and vile, and I will not let this girl, no matter how rude she is, be injected with autism. The nurse, looking like she's dealt with this before, goes, Madam, I'm not going to ask you again. Move aside, or I will contact the police. That got her to move. She blew past us before she paused, turned, then suddenly reached and grabbed my elbow. She whispers, You're coming with me. I'll keep you safe from vaccinations. My daughter like you also. They've always wanted another sister. I yank away and I'm like, back off, you crazy binge. The nurse then quickly ushers us to our room, while another nurse comes and escorts the entitled mother away. All the while, she starts yelling obscenities and calling me a dirty tramp and autistic. So yeah, some fun at the clinic. Never found out what happened to her spawn. All I know is that the front desk lady got fired for giving out patient information without consent. I have to say though, anti-vax parents are a different breed. That's scary. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that story. Tell me what you think about it in the comments, and if there's any other thoughts you have, I'd be happy to know. Let's have a chat. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next episode, and yeah, bye.